Hi, this is Dean Walker from the little outpost in the interwebs called Living Resilience. And you might also see my face and the productions that come out of Living Resilience on the YouTube channel podcast called The Poetry of Predicament. Both of those entities are a whopping 10 years old now, as we've been producing uh, practices and resources and support for both the collapse aware and collapse acceptant communities around the world for 10 years. We're uh, we're pretty proud of that, and it's been a small organization all this time, but one thing that's clear to me now is that the need for these kind of resources, whether they're poetry of predicament or living resilience type of resources, or one of the many, many other organizations and podcasts and speakers and so on that are now available to support these communities as well. Uh, this is a time when these resources are of vital importance. So we're recommitting, re-evolving, retooling ourselves for 2026. And I'd like to just check in a little bit with you because I know I've heard a few mentions recently in the notes and various aspects of the work that I haven't been putting out too much material on the poetry of predicament and really nothing since the end of our year-long course ended in September of this year. Uh, that was really an extraordinary risk to take in a time of the 24/7 fire hose to the face of too much content all the time, including too much of the good stuff, of the stuff that really feeds us and nourishes us. So, um, we finished up Islands of Sanity in a Mad World, the year-long course. And I've been just taking a break. I've been slowing down, been following my own advice, if you will, from the coursework. The initial level of our coursework is basic self-regulation and co-regulation. Like how can I, as an individual, or me involved in a circle, a family, a neighborhood, a business, a group of any kind, how can we co-regulate? How can I self-regulate? How can I bring myself back to center when I'm knocked off center? And then how can we, as a circle of any kind, bring ourselves collectively back to center to be able to hopefully be of service to those we love, to be able to make an impact in a good way on that which matters most to us, which again is another core piece and very early cornerstone piece in any of our coursework, any of the work we do in living resilience, starts with these basic fundamentals of self-regulation and co-regulation, and then also determining, discerning what is it that matters most to me right now. And if you have ever had a journaling practice, so I've always struggled to do journaling. Um, but nonetheless, it's been something that I have learned to do over time after writing my book, The Impossible Conversation, and put it out in 2017. Uh, this is a time to be keeping notes for oneself. This is a time when we're facing immense odds. They've always been there in my um, judgment. So this fascism, this authoritarian government showing up all of a sudden here in the USA, I would assert that if we just do some research, do some really close looking, we'll see that there have been seedlings planted all along in the past century, to be sure, that have pointed in this direction. And it's actually my, I'm surprised that it's taken this long for it to really take hold. And it was, of course, the Christian nationalists of the Heritage Foundation behind the Trump administration that choreographed every piece of it, all the way down to the executive orders and many of the actions that or decisions that appear to be coming from Donald Trump are clearly from people far brighter than him and far more cohesive than he is. And that certainly starts with the Heritage Foundation and the Christian nationalists. And of course, that powerful group has been joined all along by what's often called the broligarchs, those uber wealthy technocrats that are well on their way to having a world dominance financially and economically and politically. And their main product at this point, the main talking point, is the power of AI. But you'll want to keep your eyes on the actions going on behind the scenes, politically, culturally, psychologically. These elements that these powerful groups behind Trump 2.0 that they bring, which there are more groups that can be added to that, what I call a dark alliance. If we do some looking there as well, we'll see that each of them is driven by very similar motivations. Um, the one that comes to mind amongst many is there's a phrase that's been used for the past few months while ICE has been doing its work across the country, and that is that the cruelty is the purpose, the cruelty is the point in this administration. So the cruelty that we're seeing through the expressions of ICE is not a bug in the system. It is the prominent feature of the system and of this administration. And I'm sorry to announce my particular view of this. This also foretells the ever intensifying future of the USA and many other countries around the world. This is a time of great illusion of control, illusion of certainty, the imposition of dominance, of remarkable amounts of control of narrative and propaganda in the worst possible sense. So that's what I have been taking a break from. That's what I've been slowing down from since the end of Islands of Sanity in a Mad World. And as I've been preparing for the upcoming course that's going to replace it starting in January of 2026. And again, it's going to be a relatively long cycle of coursework. And there are going to be 3 4-month long cycles of coursework here in Living Resilience. The course is is a hybrid. It's still in the same relative format. There will be prepared, curated, and greatly reduced volume of content in each of the 4 months of a given cycle of the course. And each month there will still be the meetings, the Zoom meetings on the first and third Saturdays of each month. And those will be our opportunities to come together to actually practice some of the important skills that are going to be that are called for in these times now. So I'm very excited about that, and don't worry too much about uh, hearing and listening to every one of the offerings that I'm going to be briefly go over now in this video. I'll be offering little tastes of this cyclical course series from Living Resilience every week as I send out the invitations to our weekly um, drop-in style support group called Safe Circle. Yeah, you'll still be receiving the Safe Circle invitations whenever possible. We will get them out on the weekend before each Tuesday. And of course, the timing of Safe Circle calls is 5 to 6:30 p.m. Pacific time every Tuesday. So those invitations, you probably have received those invitations, but if not, there's a way to sign up to receive those invitations weekly down in the show notes, just as there will be kind of a link to sales page information for you to join in this course. And each of them will also have a little taste of some of the new material that's coming out to support this these cycles of courses this year, uh, and will of course be posted in Poetry of Predicament. So I hope that you find these not only informative and somewhat provocative from time to time, they are intended to be. They're I like to call these new, shorter but punchier versions of Poetry of Predicament. You can't unsee this. So I don't know if that's going to stick, but it sure is what I'm intending because these are the times where we don't have time to do it the way we've been doing it for decades now. By the I'm talking about protest. I'm talking about change making and stimulating change making efforts across the country at virtually every level of our culture, of our governance, of our presence together. These are times where it's really no nonsense. This is really happening, and it's happening at a scale and a rate that we could only have imagined before. Let me give you an example of why I have come to that realization and that stand for this work, that it must happen now and must happen much more, it must happen much more quickly than it's happened within my lifetime. Certainly within my adult lifetime as I've been grappling with these issues of the global polycrisis. Let's just look at the climate change issue. I'm going to leave aside for a moment with the conclusion that I came to in my 2017 book, The Impossible Conversation. One of the conclusions was that climate change is important and it is really happening. And it is happening at the rate that it was being reported on faithfully by rafts of different climate scientists over the now decades. And of course, every year we would have the conference of parties, and that would be a meeting of all the great minds in the climate change space, and to find out what can we do about this. And anybody who's been following this at all knows that those 30 years have accomplished absolutely nothing. In fact, if there is an accomplishment to be had, it's an anti-accomplishment, and that is that the every measure of climate change has been crushed in terms of us producing the opposite of the goals intended by the Conference of Parties from the UN. So that means that we all along have been consuming more fossil fuels than ever before. We've been releasing far more fossil fuel uh, greenhouse gases, of course, with CO2 being the greatest amount during this whole 30 years of COP meetings. And now, in the past year, we have seen not only our second now extrication of the U.S. from the Conference of Parties and future Conference of Parties meetings, but also the because of the work of Project 2025 and the Christian nationalist and pro-oligarch forces behind Trump, we have essentially killed off the entire environmental movement in the USA. And I just ask you to confirm that for yourself. You may agree or disagree with me, but I'm asserting that I haven't heard anything about any environmental cause from any major environmental group or voice since January of 2025, when, of course, Trump 2.0 took over. This is an extraordinary death of human effort, human concern, human passion, human survival instincts. And I'm deeply concerned what that means for the core of what it is to be human beings together in terms of what are we going to do about this? On top of that, just if that had just been a flat line, same statistic from January to now, and I'm recording this in November of 2025, it would be one thing. But we have another substantial element to account for in these roughly 11 months. We have this little uh, pesky element that's been added to the polycrisis. Not that it hasn't been known for a few years and active somewhat in the background, and mostly out of curiosity. And that's AI, artificial intelligence, and the growth of that whole field, and particularly the zero-sum, massive, global scale race to artificial super intelligence or general intelligence. That is a zero-sum game, so they're telling us. And every major company, every major economic player on the planet, including both governments and corporations, are involved in a neck and neck vicious race for all the cards on the table, all the chips on the table. This is one thing economically, and which reminds me to tell you that while we have reduced the size of the core course material for this upcoming course in Living Resilience in 2026, we always will have substantial deep dive resources curated specifically for folks who are not as familiar as they'd like to be with some aspect of the poly crisis. And the AI actually has um, a number of subsets of deep dives. There are many issues. And the one that I'm finally looping around to complete in this point is that to build the data centers that they've known they wanted to build for years now, been planting the seeds for them for years. This has really been the year of the big takeoff, the big massive layout of billions and billions of dollars. This will be the largest human construction project in history, period. There's no question about it. And they're midway in it, and the effects on water usage in every location to cool these data centers, and then the electricity usage to be able to power these data centers are both extraordinarily damaging to the population that lives in the vicinity of these data centers. I don't know about you, but I haven't heard a single environmental voice kicking up to say, this is obscene. This shall not happen. So again, I'm just looping back to what I believe is the crushing in these past few months of the U.S. environmental movement. Please prove me wrong. Please make notes in the show notes to let me know of exceptions to this that you've heard. The only thing I've seen and heard about is a very few of the jurisdictions, the cities, the counties where these data centers are being built are standing up. People are coming to those county meetings, those city meetings, and they're standing up and saying no. And they want to know who's going to pay for these doubling and tripling of electricity bills. Who's going to provide more water when all of it's been sucked out of their county by a data center? You get the idea. I'd like to say just a little bit about what we've gotten to at the heart of our coursework and really all of the productions, the content production here in Living Resilience. If it's going to work now to bring us together the way we need to come together, of what are the qualities of our presence individually and collectively as a nation, as a neighborhood, as a family, as a intimate couple, whatever level you mostly focus on, how can we bring forth a more loving, uh, caring, mutually caring presence with each other and regarding the earth? How can we do that? Got a few different threads that have kept showing up over every evolutionary step of our work here in Living Resilience, and especially our coursework. We've noticed that what caused our disconnection from each other, what caused our polarity, what causes our uh, deep self-sabotage to the point of threatening extinction, of going 30 years of intensification of every metric for climate change. What would cause us to do that? And what we've been asserting every one of those 10 years that we've been doing this work is that it came from our disconnection from deeper self, from other people, from earth, and from soul. So those have held strong the whole time, and I don't know how to refine it make it any simpler or clearer. They seem to be cornerstones to this conversation, to this inner work of collapse. I also notice that there's a remarkable tone that I've seen across the USA in these 10 months of Trump 2.0 presidency, in the face of authoritarian government, a fascist government, absolutely atrocious corporate behavior and obvious cynical intention. What I've seen be most potent in every one of those situations against every one of those odds is a combination of love and awareness and humor. I'm a proud resident of Oregon, and I've been just stunned in the most beautiful way by the folks up in Portland who they this happened elsewhere in the country. I'm just a kind of a hyper proud Oregonian for the moment, and they just had a special way of facing off with those just absolutely brutal monsters from ice.
President Trump will end the radical left's reign of terror in Portland once and for all.
You look at Portland and you see fires all over the place. You see fights and, I mean, just violence.
This network of Antifa is just as sophisticated as MS-13, as TDA, as ISIS, as Hezbollah, as Hamas, as all of them. They are just as dangerous. They have an agenda to destroy us, just like the other terrorists we've dealt with for many, many years.
When ICE officers have to street battle against Antifa, hand-to-hand combat every night to come and go from their building.
Slide to the left, slide to the right, crisscross.
You look at what's happened with Portland over the years, it's a burning hellhole.
And facing off with an atmosphere as much as I've seen anywhere of love and awareness of what's clearly going on, not the propaganda that we'll see on TV when we get home and watch it, but love, awareness, and humor. So all three of those have a very special place in my heart, and that goes really well with one of the strongest learnings and gifts that I saw out of being a part of the Islands of Sanity in a Mad World year-long course that we finished up in September, is that no matter how dismal things can look, no matter how discouraging it can seem, no matter how intense the cruelty seems to be coming from people that used to be our neighbors, used to be our friends, used to be our own family members, that there is somehow a beauty, an ineffable beauty that is behind every human action in this world, even the most cruel and destructive. And how I have formulated that is through quite a bit of just personal experience. I've shared this with the folks in the course, and I'll be sure to share it again. And I'll be asking each of you who are willing to share your own way that in your lifetime, in your felt experience, how have you connected with the beauty, with the miraculous nature of human existence in a time of boredom, in a time of nothing going on, in a time of intense pain, intense loss? I think I had this uh, insight articulated in a way that I could really start to take it in and live it on a more regular basis. When I read Viktor Frankl's work, his experience of Nazi concentration camps, and his way of articulating seeing the beauty that is inseparable from the human experience, even when we think there is no way for this to ever return to our lives, ever to return to our experience. So that's, as far as I can offer right now, that's the most precious gift that I personally gleaned from our year together last year in our main online course here in Living Resilience. It's called Islands of Sanity in a Mad World. I'll be leaving up the materials and some of the recordings from Islands of Sanity in a Mad World for those who would like to just kind of dabble a bit in that work. You'll find it a bit more bulky. There's more to it than what we're going to be including in the monthly material for this year's course. So I invite you to keep keep opening these invitations during December of 2025. And then please consider joining us for just come on in and join the online community space. There's always a free option to join our space and fully participate. And if there's any way that you could find it in your financial resources and in your willingness and desire to contribute to living resilience's excuse me, sustainability financially, it would be greatly appreciated. So once you join uh, the Living Resilience online community space, the link is down below in the notes. As soon as you get there, you could look in the courses menu right there on the landing page. And there are a couple of introductory courses for people who need a slower, more gentle approach to this whole idea of collapse, this whole idea of a meta crisis, a poly crisis. What the heck? This is a lot. So we have two beautiful introductory courses that I hope you will, whether you've been in this conversation for a few weeks or for years, I could easily recommend that you might want to bring in a friend who is themselves challenged by this conversation. Those are introductory courses. You'll see them clearly marked. Please try them out at your leisure. And also, please give some thought to joining us in the inner work of collapse coming together in the Great Turning. A 4-month cycle. There'll be 3 4-month cycles. And we're hoping that people will repeat the cycle, as many times as you'd like. But I think you're going to find that even though they're the same 4 cycles, that the curriculum, the core material will morph, change, evolve over time, and there will be no 2 cycles the same, no matter what. These are the most difficult and deep conversations in human history. We'd invite you to join us in it. We don't have a whole lot of time to work on ourselves, to do this inner work. It's an important time to find our people, to do the work with those people. So we hope you find Living Resilience to be a good environment to do that. Refine your own center. Refine and refine your ability to co-regulate, to find your center with others with whom you sit in circle from time to time. These are extraordinary times. I wish you and your loved ones well. I hope that we all find that inner flame, that ever-present backdrop of beauty in the human experience, because I feel that that's truly the only thing that manifests as hope. Every other version of hope I've heard is some version of, gee, I hope we get back to business as usual, get back to normal as soon as possible. I hope we get back to normal. That may have worked in the pandemic. This is not that. We're not going back to normal. Normal is long gone. This creation of what will come out of the destruction, the cruelty, the disarray, the insanity of these times, this is only going to be offered by people who have really done some inner work, can maintain center in the face of hurricanes, so to speak. We look forward to seeing you in some of our courses here in Living Resilience. Please don't hesitate to be in touch if you have questions, and look for the weekly updates and invitations to this work coming in December of 2025. Thank you for watching this. I look forward to seeing you and or meeting you soon.